Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well and doing great. So, guys, my name is Deepak Sharma. Very warm welcome from Edureka. So, guys, today we are going to, talk about Azure IoT. So that is going to be our agenda for today. We're going to talk about, what exactly is Azure. People oftenly get confused with, Azure. People think that Azure is basically a platform, just, cloud platform, which provide basically certain services to you and all. So we're going to talk about, what is Azure exactly, and what is an IoT, Internet of Things, and IoT on Azure, and Azure IoT components and their uses. So like you said, we will try to cover maximum things as much as we can. So guys, let's get started here. So let's talk about what is Azure. So before we talk about anything, you have to first of all, really understand what the Azure is. So let's talk about, what Azure is. Before we even jump to the Azure part, we'll try to, cover the basics, the very basic thing. Before we even talk about Microsoft Azure, let's even talk about what is cloud computing. That's a core component. So Azure is just a service provider, basically which is providing services on the cloud. Like the way Azure is providing services on the cloud, you have, the different services, different service providers who provide it on the cloud. Like Google have their own cloud, your Amazon have their own cloud with the name AWS and all. So let's understand first of all what is the cloud. What is the cloud computing? So all the different vendors are providing, why it is important to have the things on the cloud. So cloud computing basically means to store data, or or it can be anything. It can be your data, it can be application on the remote servers, and basically it means to process your data or applications from the servers. So it's vice versa. You can store your data or application on the remote servers, and you can just access your data applications via the internet from those servers. You can process those data or application directly from the servers. So in this case, in this example, as you can see, this person who is trying to access certain things, like let's say he need to access certain files, certain softwares, from the cloud. He's basically accessing those things via the browser, or it can be any software when it is connected to internet directly from the cloud itself. So how basically it helps is, like let's say I have to travel somewhere. I was working on a file, and let's say I lost my file, or put it on the pen drive, lost the pen drive, or put it on the laptop got corrupted, and you're going for, let's say, good presentation, like a pre-sales presentation, wherein you are going to represent the architecture of the company, to whom you are going to build the solutions. You're going to just, you have prepared the entire architecture, you spend a couple of days on that, and you lost that pen drive, or maybe laptop is not working, the hard drive got crashed. It's going to be a very big issue for you, right? I mean, it's going to spoil your name and fame, and your company's name and fame. So in that case, you can just do one thing. You can just store the data on the cloud, and you can access it anywhere. So when this entire this core concept of Azure, not Azure, sorry, the cloud was started, we started basically with storing the files. Like you have the drives, you just store your data over there, and you can access it from anywhere. Then we made a little bit more changes, like the files that we are putting out, we can make it shareable to everyone, wherein they can read and write data at the real time. For example, I have an Excel sheet, and the Excel sheet, I have some information about the sales and all that I'm going to put out, but I want that Excel sheet to be visible to the finance head, who can see what all sales we have made in this entire month. And this is a global company, in which various people work all over the globe. So they can just maintain a single file, and which can be updated by all the people all over the globe. Instead of having multiple files, you can just have a single file that you can put it on the cloud, and then people can access, and people can edit those files. That's the immense advantage of cloud at that time when we started. And later on, again, we evolve with everything. So in the cloud also, we started evolving. So we realized, why we are limiting ourselves just with the files. What if we have entire the data center running on the cloud itself? So like I need certain applications, certain softwares, various things, various tools I need to run, various operating systems, you know uh, I want to run it, I can easily spin up the virtual machine. What is virtual machine? I'm going to come to that point in a bit, today. So virtual machine is just like your computer only. So let's say I want to build entire infra. So instead of having dedicated machines, I can just take advantage of cloud, wherein let's say my company got a project, like let's say I'm a CEO of the company. I basically deal in the services. I got a project wherein I have to basically deploy uh, you know uh, 10 Ubuntu machines. Oh, okay. In my organization, in order to deploy 10 Ubuntu machines, I need the ISO. I need someone who has experience in deploying the operating system. Let's say I'm just a startup, we only have a couple of people, let's say 15-20 people who have more of a technical knowledge. They don't have much knowledge about it. So what you can do is you can just put the data on the directly on the cloud itself, and then you can just access from there, instead of having 15-20 people who are going to you know uh, working on installing the operating systems, purchasing new hardware. It can be a very huge cost for the organization. You can take advantage of the cloud. Like the project that I got from my organization is, let's say, a 6 months project, wherein the data is going to remain there in the organization for 6 months. After 6 months, the data is going to be lost, or I would say, because I don't need the data after 6 months. So having that kind of investment where I'm going to have 10 different dedicated computers, then 10 maybe license for the operating system I need, some technicians who are going to work on them, and going to installation, maintenance, everything, paying for that, it's going to be a big pain. So for that, you can just use the concept of cloud, which allows you to create your entire infra on the cloud itself. And at the same time, once you're going to create it, once you have created the entire infrastructure, you can just utilize it. And once you are done with the project or anything, you can just get it going. You can just remove that instance out. Okay. So I hope you guys got a very fair understanding about the cloud computing. Cloud computing, it means to store the data on application servers, wherein you can store any kind of data. Your data can be your files, your data can be your applications, data can be anything. So basically, it means to store the data or application on the remote servers, and it means to process the data on application servers and access those data, or application from the application servers. So I hope you guys got a very thorough understanding about what the cloud computing is, because this is very oftenly confusing term when people get confused with this. So let's talk about a little bit about cloud computing in detail. What exactly is the cloud computing. So if I had to just summarize what I just said about cloud computing, in just a nutshell, basically this is just a use of remote servers on the internet to store, manage, and process your data, rather than a local server or a personal computer. Like in this case, your example you see, basically this example of cloud computing, this cloud is basically think like a virtual world, when your emails, your photos, jpg or png or any format you have, your statistics, your files, your virtual machines, your computers, each and everything is on the cloud. You are not relying on your local server, your personal computer, wherein you are just putting everything on the everything on the cloud, which can be easily accessible to you via your personal device. Like you can have your maybe laptop, desktop, tablet, or maybe you can on your office network, you can be on your public network, you can be in someone else's office. You just have to log into your account and get the files from there. It's pretty easy. You don't have to rely on a bulk hardware. Like one example I said, like I'm a pre-sales person, wherein I just design the solutions as solution architect, and I present to the company. I build the entire solution for them, on my local computer. Let's say your computer crashed. Now you cannot get a another computer. Let's say you have a file that you lost, it got corrupted. You have a copy of it. You can ask someone to send it to you via email. But if you have the entire virtual machine, entire setup that you built up, you cannot retrieve it back. So you can just create it on the cloud, and you can just exit from anywhere. You don't have to get that bulky hardware, external drives or bulk laptops and all. You can just configure it on the on the any of the cloud platform and use it from there. So these are the different features that you basically have of the cloud platforms, I would say. So one is the on-demand self-service. that you don't have to be dependent on any specialist, specialist like a person, like I said, who has to deploy the operating system for you, who has to maintain it for you, who has to perform the patching and all. It's just a self-service, so you can just go to the GUI interface, and you can just get the required files that you need, or maybe spin up a new machine you want, install the application. It's just a self-service. At just a single click, you can do everything you want, so you don't have to rely on majority of the sessions and everything. And after that, the other thing that it provides is basically broad network access, wherein you have basically your this entire data available with all over the globe. You are not basically relying on just one component, or for one region. Like, you are not trying to access within the India, or within the US, within the UK. So it can be accessible everywhere till the time you have the internet connection. The another is resource pooling. It basically, you can just create a cluster of it. You have basically have a clustered environment, wherein you have to have as many as machines you want. You can just create a cluster of it. You can have your database, you can have your web server, you can have anything which basically going to run in a cluster. Another is basically rapid elasticity, which basically means that if you want to expand your environment, like for example, I started building a virtual machine, where my virtual machine has let's say 4 gig of RAM. At that time I had a requirement. I only need 4 gigs of RAM. I don't need more RAM, and I just need let's say 100 GB of hard drive. Later on, I got another requirement wherein I had to install heavy softwares. So I will not be able to install heavy software because I don't have enough RAM, enough hard drive. So you can basically expand your entire infra just with some single clicks. You don't have to wait a couple of hours. With just a single click, you can just spin up your entire environment, and you can just you can just go from there. And at the same time, the last thing is basically which is your major service. So basically, it's basically going to measure whatever the stuff that you're going to use, and pay as you go. So whatever the service that you're going to use, you're going to pay for that, those services only. Okay. Now I hope you guys got a very fair understanding about cloud computing and its component. Now coming towards the Azure, I hope you guys got a very fair understanding about cloud computing. So Microsoft Azure is one of the cloud service provider, which basically is hosting the services, the data, everything on the cloud that you can use. Like, you have Microsoft Azure. Likewise, from Amazon, you have Amazon Web Services. Google have their Google Cloud. But Microsoft Azure is like one of the very famous cloud provider, which is widely used. It's not like that Amazon or other providers are not used. People sometimes give preference to Microsoft. The reason being is, if you talk about the big organizations, basically they have to have so many computers within the organization, so they have to install the operating system. They are not going to purchase an individual license. They purchase a bulk license. So they have to get an agreement with the Microsoft. Now they want to, along with that agreement, and then they have to go ahead with this any of the cloud platform. They can easily go ahead with one of their component from Microsoft itself, which is Microsoft Azure, which basically gives an advantage to the organization, wherein they have signed the entire NDAs. Their services, each and everything is basically coming via Microsoft. So having one more component from Microsoft will give them an advantage. Again, it has various more features, like in Azure you have a key vault, IoT, all those kind of features. It's like pay as you go. Whatever you are going to use it, you have to pay for that. So same thing basically, I have mentioned this here. Microsoft Azure basically is a cloud service which help your organization to meet your organizational challenges. Like, one of the challenge that I shared with you, you got a project wherein you require certain hardware components, and those hardware components can be very expensive for you guys if you got a project for a very small time. So keeping that in mind, you can just spin up your entire environment virtually on the cloud and use it from there. And once you are done with that project, for after specific duration, couple of months, you can just delete the entire instance, and you don't have to pay for anything, instead of purchasing the entire on-premises hardware, the laptops, license of the operating system, the technicians who are going to install it, and all this kind of stuff. Okay. So now moving on, the features, different features that you can basically have in the Azure. So these are a couple of features, which is basically demand provision, which means that you are going to be asked for what is your need when you like when you need, and when you want to stop. So it's like an on-demand thing. So whenever you need it, you just provision that thing, and then once the need is done, just deprovision that thing. The other is scalability in minutes. So scalability in minutes is means that, like you said, you can just scale up your environment in just in minutes only. You can scale, you can scale up, you can scale down, you can just increase the hardware memory, certain configurations, or you can degrade that in just a couple of minutes. You don't have to have a additional hard drive or something. Like in the local systems, you basically face a problem. You are not going to face a problem, so you can just scale up or scale down couple of minutes only, and you're going to be charged based on that. And the third one basically is pay as you consume. So you're only going to pay for those services that you're consuming. You are not going to be pay for those services that you're not consuming. The other one basically is abstract resources, so which means that it basically focus only on your needs, whatever you need. So you don't have to worry about the hardware specification. Like, I want to expand the RAM on my system to 2 GB to 32 GB. I don't have to really worry about I need additional hardware, anything. So it's just the cloud is going to take care of it, which is your Azure cloud that we are talking about. So the other one is efficiency of experts. So you just have to utilize the skills, knowledge, for the resources. You don't have to worry about the other components, like how you're going to increase the virtual machine, or how you're going to perform all those kind of components. You don't have to worry about it. The last one is basically the measurable. Each and every unit of usage is measurable. You can even see in a real time that like whatever the services that you're using, how much the services that you have used, how much is left. So each and every service is basically measurable. Okay. Now coming to the other component, basically your virtual machine. So virtual machine is basically something people oftenly get confused with that. So what is virtual machine? So in this computer world, in this computing world, a virtual machine is just an emulation of your computer system. Your VMs are just based on a computer architecture, and basically they provide functionality of a physical computer. So on your system, you can create as many virtual machines as you want. Okay. You don't have to basically worry about all this kind of things. So you just have to need you might be in other words, you basically just need an ISO that you want to you know require in order to spin up a new virtual machine. For example, on your laptop, if you have enough hard drive, enough RAM, you can just create a new virtual machine. So you can basically have different softwares for this. You have basically have VirtualBox, you basically have ESXi. There are various softwares that you can basically use to build up the virtual machines. So like I can show you another example before I come jump to that point. Same thing, the same concept basically applies on the cloud world, wherein what you do is you just use one instance, one account. For example, I'm going to log into Azure. I'm going to use my own account, and once I'm logged in with my account, I can create as many virtual machines as I want, and I have to pay as I go. Like, I just have to pay for the virtual machines. I don't have to pay for entire infrastructure. So whatever I'm going to use, I'm going to pay for that. Now, first, one of the example of virtual machine, like in my local machine, I have enough space, so I build up this virtual machine, which is going to open up in a moment, using Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager. So this is a Kali virtual machine which I have built up. So if I'm going to launch it up, even though my system is of Windows, in my Windows operating system, it's going to open another operating system on this console, on the VM box console, which is Oracle VirtualBox console, a Kali Linux operating system. So likewise, it's going to right now these virtual machine. This is one virtual machine. I can have as many as I want till the time I have enough hardware space to utilize all the needs. So once I have created the virtual machine, I can just, depending on my hardware configuration, I can run as many virtual machines as I want. But all these virtual machines are going to be remain on my local machine. It's not going to be on a cloud. If I go somewhere else, I will not be able to access it. I need my computer or these, virtual machine files to access it. In the case of cloud, you can access it anywhere, wherever you are. Okay. So I hope you guys got a very fair understanding about each and everything that we have covered so far. So till now we talked about, what is basically is, cloud computing. What are different components of the cloud? What is basically, Azure. What are the different Azure features? What is a virtual machine? And now let's head towards the IoT. What exactly is IoT? Before we jump on Azure IoT, so we are basically breaking down the things in various parts, because I know that all the people come from a different background. So now, before we directly jump to Azure IoT, we really have to understand what the cloud is. So we are basically taking the baby steps here. What the cloud is, what cloud computing is, what Azure is, what the different functionality of Azure you have, and then what virtual machine is, and then what is IoT. IoT means Internet of Things, which means that you're going to connect various devices, just to have a kind of a resiliency and redundancy, and instead of having different devices, you're just going to focus on one device, and you're going to get the information from there. So you're going to connect various devices, various things over the internet, without any human intervention. So like, if we talk about one of the other example of IoT, which will give you more understanding, as you can see in this screenshot, what we have done is, like, we have basically connected wearable technology, smartphones, vehicles, your home lighting, your home appliances, your music, your personal computers, analytics, your flight services, online shopping. We have connected almost many functionality here, just to have one solution. So instead of having multiple solutions, like a dedicated solution for online shopping, a different solution for wearable technology, different solution for your vehicles, different solution for home lighting, it's going to be a lot of solutions, which is going to be practically impossible for you to manage it. Plus you have to basically pay for all those kind of things separately. So IoT gives you an advantage wherein you combine multiple technologies just to make a single technology. Okay. Now I hope you guys got a very fair understanding and very thorough understanding about cloud computing, Azure, the components, IoT. Now let's head towards the major thing, which is IoT in Azure. Okay, so what exactly is IoT in Azure? Now you guys have a fair idea about IoT and Azure. So the very common analogy behind Azure is, like, it basically focus on the power consumption analogy, like you can see here. So it basically means that the pay as you go. So whatever the services, whatever the things that you're going to utilize right now, you are going to pay for that only. So it's not like that, like I have written one of the example here. So it's basically similar to the power consumption. So whenever you're using the electricity, you basically pay only for the power units that you use, and you are not going to pay for anything else. So a similar concept lies here in the case of Azure only. You are just going to pay for the component itself, not about other things. So this is again the symbol of IoT in Azure. So where it's going to look like this. So I'm going to show you practically once I'm going to move towards that. So these are the different components in the IoT on Azure. As you can see here, what you have done is, you have I have a use case. I want to combine a web app, a Power BI tool, a storage. I need a Steam Analytics, IoT Hub. So with the help of IoT, which is one of the component in Azure, I can combine all those kind of features, and I can use it directly. I don't have to worry about all other kind of things. Okay, so I hope you got a very clear understanding about IoT, wherein you combined the different technologies and just to build a one solution instead of having multiple solutions, if I have to conclude this as your IoT term. Now let's talk about the Azure IoT components. What are the different Azure IoT components that you can have? you know so the very first component that you can have is basically Azure IoT Central, which basically means that your all the different technologies that that you have combined basically are going to lie in just single technology. It's not like that my different technologies that I have combined, for that I need a different interface. I just need a single interface, and with that single interface, I can connect with all the different components. Like, I want to build a web app, I can basically build a web application. I can simply build you know your the database application, and I want this web app to communicate with your database application. So you can make the dual level communication with both these applications instead of having a different interface with just one interface, which is going to be an Azure platform with single login account in which you are. You can just access all the different components that you have. Okay. Other is Azure IoT solution escalators. So wherein, so all these basically devices require some kind of, interface. So these different devices, these different technologies can, integrate with each other. So I'm saying that I have an application which is basically going to, serve on the internet. Like I want to make some, shopping website wherein people are going to, perform the shopping on directly on my website. So I have basically that shopping application. So this shopping application will require the database. This shopping application will require, let's say, a different network segment, all those kind of components. So it requires some form of interface between the different components. Like this, shopping application has to integrate with the database, which has to be on a different server for security measures. And I require another database which is going to store the hash of the passwords, because I want to be security centric as well, wherein if my database is compromised, let's say due to XYZ reason, so during that time I don't want that sensitive information of my customers should be hacked. So let's say I made this website in UK, and this has to be as per the GDPR guidelines, which is global data protection regulations. If my database is going to be compromised with the customers, I have to pay a hefty fine, to the government. At the same time, in addition to paying the hefty fine, it's going to spoil my name and fame, right? So we don't want to do that. So that's why I want all the different components to be on a different systems. At the same time, if I want to have all these components on different system, I want all these components to be interactive with each other. So because your database is going to be on a different server, your web application is going to be in a different server, your passwords which are going to be in a hash form are going to be in a different server. So you have to have a kind of interface where all these different components that you have basically can be interact with each other. So that's the benefit that you get with Azure IoT solution escalators, wherein it basically helps you in providing the interface. The next one basically is the Azure IoT Hub, wherein it means that you have just a central hub, a central repository from which you can just manage all the components. I'm going to show you, how it looks like on Azure platform, and you can just get the things, from there only. The other is basically Azure Time Series Insights. So it means basically that each and everything is basically logged with a timestamp. You can have your own logs. So basically, you don't have to rely on different people, different team members for logging everything. It's basically going to log each and everything for for your application. Even you can just configure your own monitoring tools as well. Let's say I want to completely depend on the Azure only. I don't want to build my in-house platform, so I want to build everything on the Azure itself. So each and everything which is going to be logged, all the requests which are coming in my environment, all the people who are trying to log in, each and every request is going to be logged. So based on that, those events, I can just set up the certain security mechanism, wherein if a request is coming from that IP couple of times, it's going to send an alert. So that's the meaning of Azure Time Series Insights. You can just be have a clear transparency of all different kind of events which are being happening. The other is Azure Sphere, which is basically one of the components of Azure Sphere, wherein you can just see all the components, you can manage it out. And the last one is Azure Maps. Like the Google Maps, basically, you can just see the information, you can just manage the information, and you can just, get the things from there itself. Clear? These are the different Azure IoT components. Now coming to one of the important part, which basically helps in building up Azure structure, is like virtual networks. So for the better security purpose, as well as for better isolation, we can use virtual networks, wherein we can just define our own network, and where we can put the applications into the different network zones. Basically what I want is that I want my one application has to be in a different network, other application has to be in a different network. So it's not like that. That's some of the sometimes people think that how I can achieve on the Azure itself. Like if I'm building something in my in-house network, okay. So what we used to do is the critical components. For example, my one of my critical application. Let's say in my let me make it more simple to you guys. Let's say in my organization I have 50 servers, okay. Out of these 50 servers, I have 15 critical servers, which basically stores the information of the customer's credit card and everything. out of these 50 servers, I just want to have only 2 servers on the internet, and that internet means interconnection of the network. So there can be certain computers as well, wherein the hacker can also be there, who can try to eavesdrop the communication. So he can try to put the malware on one of the machine. So if hacker is able to put malware in one of the system, he will be able to replicate those malwares in all the systems, right? So in order to minimize it, what we do in generally in the on-premises environment, we just put it in a different security zones. Like these 2 computers, I could put it, on the internet via the proxies, or I can use DMZs for that, a different network basically, so that if something is compromised, it's going to compromise those 2 computers only, which are available via the internet. Rest 48 would be fine. So how you can achieve with this, this thing with Azure, because the entire thing is on the cloud. So networks, people think that it can be managed by you. That's wrong. Azure has a concept of virtual networks. Basically, what it means is, it means that the different the machines, the different infrastructure that you are creating, you can create a different V network for that. So here in this case, Azure virtual network, it means basically, a VNet. Basically what you can do is, you can just isolate your different components, different computer, at a different network. So you don't have to basically rely on one of the component, one of the network. You can just basically isolate all these computers, all these critical components into different networks. So that's basically your virtual network. And in the Azure, basically, that is a sign of virtual network. On the Azure platform, if you're going to log into your account, you're going to get a sign like this of the virtual network. Okay, and this is again one of the real environment that I can show you, which can help you in getting a fair understanding. Let's say these are the 3 virtual machines, in my virtual networks. I want these 3 virtual machine into a different subnet. So wherein what you can do is, you can just put in a different subnet. This machine is going to be a different subnet, this machine is going to be a different subnet, this is going to be in a different subnet, which basically gives you an advantage. Instead of having machines in the same network, you can have machines in a different subnets, so that you can just protect yourself. And then if I had to summarize this entire architecture, the way basically how it works is, let me show you in the next slide. This is the entire architecture, the way it's going to look like to you, wherein you have basically NSG. NSG basically stand for network security groups. These NSGs are just like your firewalls only, which filter the traffic which is coming in and going out from your virtual machines. These settings can be easily done by the Azure itself. Then you can have a different subnets and different virtual machines into those subnets, and then you have at the core, at the top, you have basically the virtual network. Let me even show you, if you want to basically build Azure IoT, how you can. So basically, like I mentioned, for starters, you need to have a Azure free account. So you can create a free account if you don't have any of the free account basically. So you're going to log into your Azure account, and you're going to have a page like this, as you can see on my screen. This is going to be your home page. So you can just click on a dashboard here. If you get lost, by clicking on dashboard, you can just come here. You can just create a resource of you, as you can see in my screenshot here. This is basically the entire the resource. You can create it here. Once you have basically created the resource, remember, everything in the Azure has to be live between a resource. You cannot have anything up in the air. You have to put the things in basically in a resource, so that all the whatever the kind of configuration you are doing, like I want to create a different network, I want to create a network security group, which is just like a firewall. You can just put everything in a dedicated resource group. So here you are going to create a resource. Once you create the resource, you're going to select here Internet of Things, IoT, that we talked about, and you're going to have a IoT hub, the same thing that we have that we have learned a moment ago. So you can have a quick start tutorial, wherein you can just watch the tutorial, and you can just get more information about it, all the information that you have already gathered with me right now. And then once you've created your basically IoT hub is basically ready to use. It's going to look something like this. So here this is basically the subscription, wherein you have to provide a subscription name, the resource group name, the region basically is basically you can use default one. So what it means basically is that if you are going to create a virtual machine in different region, you are, for example, I'm in let's say South Africa. I'm creating a virtual machine in a region which is let's say India. So it's going to create a virtual machine in that region, and I'm going to exit it over there. So sometimes it can have some kind of lag, but it does not create that much lag, so you are not going to create that much difficulty. So that's the region is. So if you're even using the default the region, that is also fine. It's not going to impact anything. It's going to create the virtual machine in that environment. And again, in the case of Azure, everything is basically into the cluster environment where the things are in the cluster itself directly. And here we go. Here your IoT hub basically gets created. Okay guys, so we can wrap up for today then. I hope you enjoyed a lot. Take care of yourself guys. Bye.